This is J. Krishnamurti's second public talk in Saanen, 1973.
Shall we go on with what we were talking day before yesterday? We were saying seeing what the world is about us and what we are actually, not theoretically. What a world we have created, a world of great brutality, division, wars, appalling cruelties, suffering. Seeing all this, one feels, if one is at all serious, that there must be great change, not only outwardly, but especially within oneself. I do not know if you feel the same thing as the speaker does. How very important it is that there should be this psychological revolution. Because every other form of revolution, social reform, little patchwork here and there, has been of no avail. They haven't fundamentally, deeply changed man. And unless man changes himself, he always overcomes whatever the structure be according to his particular conditioning. I think that's fairly obvious, both historically and actually. And if you also feel the urgency, the seriousness of this change, of this transformation, of this revolution, you must have asked, how is a human mind which has created the outward environment, how can that not merely structurally, but how can the outward change be brought about in relation to the inward change? That is, if you see the necessity of this deep inward change of the mind, and if you take it really seriously, then the question inevitably arises, how am I caught in this world, trapped in this peculiar culture and civilization? How am I to fundamentally change? And what is involved in this change? I'm sure you must have asked it. The more serious one is, the more urgent the question becomes. Can this change be brought about by another? By a philosophy? By a new kind of social structure? By a new religion? Or by a new belief? When you put that question to yourself, you have seen whether a new belief has any validity at all. Because all belief, however great, however convenient, is always the outcome of a series of processes of thought. I believe in something, a beautiful ideal. That ideal is the structure brought about by thought. Obviously, when you believe in or have faith in something, it is the result of the process of mentation. Will a new structure, socially, economic, will that change the human mind? Or will it make it more superficial, more convenient, more attractive, more satisfying, and therefore will not actually bring about this change? Will a new authority? Obviously not, because any authority, whether however new, is still patterned after the old. So what will change man? And what is there to be changed? If one observes oneself, we are caught in a world of knowledge, of a culture, of a civilization which has conditioned our mind. Our conditioning is the result of a culture, of a civilization. The Western culture, Eastern culture, and so on. That is the result of our conditioning. The culture, the environment, the civilization has produced this mind. I think that we all accept that, naturally and logically, if you observe it. Now, what am I to do as a human being living in this world, a monstrous world, with very little meaning? What am I to do? How am I to transform myself? How am I to change radically? Because I see I have to change radically. Because everything about me, the way I live, working, frightened, violence, wars, insecurity, all the religious structure which has no meaning at all anymore, the political chicanery, corruption, seeing all this, how am I to change so that it has an effect on the world, and also my conduct, my behavior, my way of living is totally different? Now, is this your problem? If it is not, we can't share it. Sharing means to share something together in which we are vitally interested, deeply concerned, totally committed. If we have a motive in sharing, then it's not possible to share. If I have a motive and you have a motive, which must be obviously be different, how can we share together a problem? And the problem is the transformation of the total activity of man. If you are vitally interested in it, seriously committed to the solution of this problem, that is, how can the mind, which has been shaped through time, through culture, through civilizations, how can that mind totally be transformed so that it moves, acts, functions in a different way altogether? If that is your problem, then we can share it together. But if you say, I have a personal problem which I must solve with my relationship with my wife, with my neighbor, with I have a particular disease, I want it cured, I hope you will cure it, do this, then we are not sharing the issue problem. But we will share this problem if you and I are completely interested, totally committed in the solution of this. For me, that's the only problem. In the resolution of that problem, I will solve all the other problems. My relationship with another, my loneliness, my despairs, my anxieties, fears, pleasures, the solution of death, meditation, reality, everything is involved in this. So, if it is your interest, your serious intention to go to the very end of it, then we can talk this over together, like two friends, quietly, deeply investigating, tracing out, inquiring. And we can only inquire if you are not committed to any other thing but this. If your mind is not free, you can't inquire. You can't investigate. But in the process of investigation of this central issue, the other problems which you have will be solved. Whether they be economic, social, religious, personal, imbalance and all the rest of it. If that is clear, then we can proceed and find out together. I am not laying down dogmatically or hesitantly, but inquiring together, in which there is no authority whatsoever. Neither your authority nor that of the speaker. We are together inquiring, exploring whether the mind can be totally be transformed. This mind that we have, whether it is the European mind or the Eastern mind, with their peculiarities, superstitions, and the Western mind with their absurdities, with their technological knowledge, this mind we are concerned. Now, what is this mind? If you observe your own mind, which is the Western mind, I'm not dividing West and East. I'm talking here to you who are the Westerners. Therefore, it's for convenience sake. I do not regard the human mind as the West or the East. It's a human mind. Now, this mind is conditioned by a culture, by an environment, economic, social, climatic. This mind has been shaped through time, through knowledge, through experience, to face the world, to look at the world in terms of money, power, pleasure, and to be able to kill. Right? Look at it. Probably Christians have killed more people than any other people in the world. Including Genghis Khan and Tamerlane and all the rest of that gang. So you are conditioned to kill not only other human beings through scientific warfare, but also to kill animals for your food. And money has become extraordinarily important. The pursuit of money. Because having money gives you pleasure, position, so-called freedom, security. And you have been conditioned religiously to accept an image, transferring all your particular sorrows to that image. Your religion is based on authority, tradition, rituals, dogmas, the infallibility of certain people. Socially, you're seeking power. Competition is very rampant. And you can compete efficiently when you have great knowledge. So education is the cultivation of memory, so that you have an instrument of it which is efficient to kill, to survive. So that is your conditioning, as it is in the East, in a different way. I think there is no question about this, right? That conditioning is knowledge. Right? Please, I'm talking, it doesn't mean I'm the only person talking. We are investigating together. And in this investigation, you see, technologically, scientifically, medically, you have advanced tremendously. But also, you have destroyed the earth. You have killed thousands and thousands of people for an idea or for money or for the exploitation of the earth. You call yourselves Christians. You say you love God and you kill man. This is your heredity. This is your conditioning. And as long as that there is no freedom from that conditioning, there cannot possibly be a transformation of the mind. Right? So, transformation of the mind implies total negation of this civilization, of this culture. You understand what we're talking about? Total denial of this monstrous culture that made us what we are. Each one fighting for himself. And in this culture we say we must work, change the world, different values, new structure. Why should I work? You say you must work in order to survive, which means maintain the structure as it is. And the reaction to that is, I won't work. Why should I work? I hope you're all following all this. Life has no meaning as it is now. Has it? You suffer. You're constantly in battle with yourself and with your wife, husband, with your neighbor, with your conflict. And your ethic says work. But your ethic doesn't say what is the meaning of life. Unless you find the meaning of life, why should I work? Either to support the structure or the new structure or a new kind of self-denial. You know what's happening in the world. Why should I work at all? And you are given, the culture has given a meaning to life in work, in the Christian gods. Meaning to life, going to the moon, becoming a successful person in the world. Your meaning is out there. And that is losing its significance. These are all facts. And so, seeing all this, made sorrow. One has shed tears, not sentimental tears. One has inquired, searched, looked here and there. None of them give the answer. They say, follow me, worship me, accept this pattern of behavior, work for another. Don't work for yourself. Be concerned about the society, not about yourself. But all those statements have no meaning. Because one has not found the meaning of life, meaning of existence, which cannot be found in any book, in another. In following a guru, an authority, none of them give you the meaning of existence. You have to find it for yourself. That's what we're going to do. The speaker is not telling you the significance or the meaning of life, but together, and I mean together, like taking a journey, a walk together, we'll find out. And to find the meaning, not the purpose. Purpose, you can invent a purpose. If you are clever, intellectual, or fairly reasonable, fairly balanced, you can either invent or accept or put together a purpose. The purpose has no meaning. Purpose, the end of life, is totally different from the meaning of existence, meaning of life. The one becomes superficial, whereas if one is really inquiring into the deep meaning of living, then it leads the mind very, very far. So, our minds are conditioned from the moment we are born or previously till we die. And the transformation is the total freedom from this conditioning. And this conditioning exists through the various movements of culture, artistic, religious, technological, political, economic, scientific, and all that. Can this mind be aware of this conditioning? Can you be aware of it? Aware in the sense, I mean by that word, to observe, please listen to this, to observe without any distortion. To observe your conditioning, that is your culture, your civilization, all the movements of social, all that's going on in the world, of which you are a part, to observe that, to become aware of that. We mean by that word aware, to observe without any distortion of opinion, conclusion, without the interference of your tendency or your particular experience, to be aware of this conditioning without any choice, just to watch. And in the observation of it, you will then deny, if you go deeply enough, totally all this culture. And yet you have to live in this world. That's the problem. You understand I hope you're following all this. You know, to me this is I'm burning with it. How can this mind live in this world which is so appalling, so destructive, so meaningless, and turn my back on it completely? And I mean by turning back, actually put away all the rubbish it has put in my mind. Their religions, their attitudes, their opinions, their immorality, their sense of monetary import, the whole of that, the killing. Can I turn my back on it and yet live here? Not withdraw, run away into some monastery. That's no meaning. I do not know if you ever played that game. Of withdrawing from the world. Withdrawing into a monastery or into a room. Cutting everything out of it, so that you're completely isolated. And if you have ever done it, even for a day or even for a week, you'll soon find out that's not the way out. That's again the movement of thought which, in its reaction to this mad, confused, insane world, says, I can only solve it by withdrawing it. So my question is, first, can this mind, which is the result of this civilization and this culture, and therefore has very little meaning, can the mind become aware of it, choicelessly, observe, and yet I have to live here. I have to do things every day. How is this possible? You following all this? First of all, we must be very clear that the description is not the described, right? What we have described, put into words, is not the thing itself. And second, are you very certain, clear, that there must be radical transformation? Not have your finger in this social order or in this church or in this sect or in this book or in this total transformation. And third, this mind, which is the result of this culture, this civilization, is the result of that. And to be free of that conditioning, you must totally deny the culture and yet live in this world. Right? Now, how is this to be done? Right? I hope you're following all this. I hope I'm making myself clear. I have to live in this world with all the madness around me. This madness which has tried to give a meaning to life, and in the observation of it, I see it has no meaning. I have to live with this structure and yet not belong to it in any way. Right? Now, is this possible? I cannot escape into some fanciful world. I cannot escape through any commune. I cannot escape from it by becoming another religion, joining another religion, becoming a Hindu instead of a Christian, or a Buddhist, or a worshipper of some ugly little guru. And there are plenty of them. So I am stuck with this. Because I've pushed away all that. I don't look to anybody. Not that I'm full of confidence in myself. I have no confidence in myself. If I have confidence in myself, I'm deceiving myself. What can I have confidence in when the whole of me is the result of this structure, of this civilization, of this culture? So I have no confidence in myself. I have no belief. Please follow all this. I don't look to anybody, to any god, to any image, to any priest, to any structure that thought has put together as religion. Whether it's Christian religion, Hindu, nothing. Because they are the culture which has shaped me, in which I live, which has brought about this mad world. World of insanity, war, brutality, chicanery, deception, hypocrisy. Right? So I'm left with my conditioning. I have nothing else. I have no meaning to life, because any meaning I invent will be out of my conditioning. Any God I project will be out of my conditioning as a reaction to what I have been conditioned. I have been conditioned as a Christian, I'll reject and react to that and create another. So I have only this left with me. I hope you're following this. Now, how is the mind to free itself from this web, which is very deep, conscious as well as deeply unconscious? How is the mind to disentangle itself and make itself completely free, original, pristine, clear? You understood my... Now, if this is your problem, not imposed by me, but you have come to it, you have come to it because you have looked around the world. You have looked at yourself. You have looked at your struggles, your pains, your anxieties, your fears. And you have observed a new structure, socially. Doesn't solve this problem. May solve some superficial problems, like having a better prison. So, if you have come to the same thing, that is, you have observed in your life not only the way of your life, the conflict, the struggle, the deceptions which you practice on others and about yourself, the sorrow, the irresponsible life that one leads, the meaninglessness of it all. And you have also observed the outer world. The world of the Far East, the world of the Middle East, the world of the European and the American and all the rest. It's all It's all there to be looked at. And if you have really deeply rejected all that and have only this left, that your mind is conditioned, and any projection from that conditioned mind creates further confusion, further misery, further conflict. Right? So the question then is, can the mind free itself from its conditioning? Now, is this possible? Man has inquired, gone into this as far as this, and said it's not possible, I can't do it. Therefore, what he has done is he looks to an outside agency. Please listen to this. That outside agency is God. Is some superhuman energy, superhuman consciousness. That superhuman consciousness, superhuman energy, superhuman God is the projection of his conditioning. Are you following? So man, being aware of his conditioning, not being able to solve it, moves away from it, creates an illusion, and that illusion becomes his reality. But it is his projection, whether in the field of ideology, religion, and so on. So, there is no outside agency. You understand? I hope you're following all this. What we are doing is discarding everything that man has tried in his search, in his inquiry. Discarding everything that thought has put together outwardly. So you are left with this. Your conditioning. Whether you are aware of it or not, that's up to you. How deeply or how superficially, it's still up to you. But if you are really desperately serious, wholly committed to this one thing, then we can take the journey together. So, can the mind, or rather, has the mind the energy, please listen, has the mind the energy to explore without any distortion the whole content of the mind which is conditioned? I need energy, don't I? To investigate anything, I need energy. To go up to that mountain, I need energy. And here I need tremendous energy. And I will have it in abundance if that energy is not dissipated. You're following? I dissipate that energy when I seek an outside agency. I dissipated that energy when I say it cannot be done. Or I dissipate that energy when I say, oh yes, quite easy, let's work at it. I dissipate that energy when I want to go beyond it. I dissipate that energy when I look to another, to an authority, to a book, that energy becomes canalized, vital, immense, when there is no escape from the central issue, which is, can the mind be aware of the content of this conditioning only, and not try to go beyond it. I don't know if you follow all this. Right? Nous sommes d'accord. You know, sir, this is the most arduous thing, to be so completely concerned and committed to the solution of this problem. It's like a scientist, not the scientist who is committed to a government. He is not a scientist at all. But I like a scientist who is really concerned objectively, without any hypothesis, without any desire to produce a result, observing everything in himself, which is his conditioning. Then you have the energy. Right? You're following all this. Not the energy to do more good. Not the energy to do more yoga. Or to convert others. Or to write books. We are talking of a totally different kind of energy. The energy that has been wasted, dissipated. Now it's all there, held together. Now what is the content of this mind? And is the content different from the mind? You follow? I want to find out what the content of my mind is. And is the content different from the mind itself? And is there a mind, consciousness, without the content? Is this all too much of a morning? Is not the content the mind? The content is not different from the mind. I mean by the mind the totality. The brain with all its memories, the feeling, the heart with its affection, with its care, with its tenderness, the physical organism, all that I call the mind. It isn't just the intellectual mind. The intellect, the capacity to reason sanely, logically, all the feeling that one has, affection, the hurts, the sense of beauty, the sense of the sensitivity, the fear, all that. When I use the mind, I include all that. Now I'm asking myself, my mind is conditioned, obviously. And that conditioning is knowledge. That knowledge is based on experience, whether it's mine or yours or 10,000 people, which is the culture, the civilization. Now, is the content different from the mind? Or the content makes up the consciousness? So there is no division between the content and consciousness. Are you following on this? We are together in this. Now, this is important. Please bear this in mind. The content is consciousness. Consciousness is the content. Therefore, there is no me different from the content. Right? It's some difficult thing for you to see this. Look. I'm trying to find an example, but I can't. I can't think in examples. What I'm trying to point out is there are no divisions in the content as the me different from the thing it observes as the content. Right? Am I conveying anything? Look, sir, I'll put it differently. The mind is conditioned. And I'm asking, can the mind be ever free from this conditioning? And in this conditioning, there is the observer as the me, and the thing it observes as the conditioning. Right? So there is a division in this conditioning. The observer who says, I am different from the conditioning. Therefore, the observer can change the conditioning. He can shape it, control it, alter it, as long as there is the division between the observer and the observed, which is the content. And the observer says to himself, I am different from the content. I am the higher self. You know, all that tricks one plays upon oneself, which you have it in this culture, in the Eastern culture, in a different way. So, consciousness is made up of the content, and the content is consciousness. They are one. So there is no division as the observer and the observed. Bene. Please see this. Either you see it intellectually, verbally, and therefore very little meaning, or you realize the truth of it. Therefore, you eliminate altogether conflict. You understand this? That is, when there is a division between the observer and the observed is something different from the observed. Where there is division in this conditioning, there must be conflict. Right? And that's part of our culture. I am different. I am the will exercising over the content to change it. I don't know if you follow this. So, where there is division, there must be conflict. Division between Europe and America, between the communist and the socialist and the capitalist, between the nationalities of Hindu and the Muslim and the Arab and the Jew. You're following on this? Where there is division, that's the truth, an aphorism. Where there is division, there must be conflict. If I am divided from you as my wife, husband, neighbor, whatever it is, brother, in that division there must be conflict. And part of my culture, my conditioning is that I am different from that which I observe. I am an Englishman. You follow? I am a Jew, or a Muslim, or Hindu. All that stupid nonsense. So, the content of consciousness is the whole. There is no division. See how the problem becomes much more difficult. Before I solved it, I thought I solved it by inventing the observer, different from the thing he observes. And therefore, the whole concept of control, which is part of our civilization, part of discipline, control, imitation, conformity, and which we have been brought up from childhood, which is part of our culture, which is the conditioning. I wonder if you're meeting all this. And my conditioning says, I am different from the thing which I observe. Of course I am different from the thing which I observe as the tree, as the mountain. We are not talking of that. We are talking of the total content of consciousness in which the I is different from the thing which it observes. Therefore, there is a division as the observer and the observed. You're getting all this? So I've eliminated the cause of conflict. You understand this? For God's sake, do. Because then you will be free of conflict. Conflict exists in duality. Me and you. We and they. I must be jealous. I am jealous. I must not be jealous. I am violent. I must not be violent. The I is different from violence. That is the culture in which we have been brought up. And we are saying that culture has conditioned the mind to divide itself, to fragment itself. And so the battle goes on, endless. But when you see the content makes up consciousness, then there is no fragmentation, not one area fighting another area. I wonder if you see this. So we find that any fragmentation is the process of thought. Right? I wonder if you see that. No, you do. Thought. What time is it? ¿Qué hora es? Men? Ma. Un'ora e un quarto ho parlato. What's that?
You're different from everything. It's consciousness. You're different from your feelings, from your physical body, from your thought.
That's part of, yes, you're saying we are different from our body, from our feelings, from our thought, and that's part of our conditioning. On the contrary, I'm saying there is no you different from the conditioning. I wonder if you see this.
How can we turn our back on the conditioning if we're not different from it?
I beg your pardon?
How can we turn our back on this conditioning, or reject it if we're not different from it?
I haven't heard your question, sir.
How can we turn our back on this conditioning if we're not different from it? Instead of turn
I'm going to show it. You see, that is exactly it. You are proving actually how you are conditioned. Just let me answer that question. It's an important question, please. He asked a question, which is, how can I turn my back if I am not different from that which is conditioned? Right? So he assumes that he is different from the conditioning. And therefore, being different, he can turn his back on it. But is he different? Or he's part of that conditioning, thinking he's different. Look, sir, this is, please bear with me a little if I labor the point. We have come to this point, which is that we know we are conditioned. And not being able to resolve that conditioning, thought says there must be a different force, a different energy, different spirit in me that can say I will turn away from it. You following this? This they have done in India in a different way. And as India exploded over whole of Asia, they have caught the Indian spirit that is, there is a higher self different from the lower self. And therefore the higher self can control the lower self. They have given it a name, and they are pursuing that philosophy endlessly. Because they haven't been able to solve the central issue, which is, can the mind free itself from its conditioning? And as they have not been able to answer it, they invented an entity, an outside agency, a superconsciousness which will dissolve the conditioning. Now, you see, and you do it in the same way here differently. It's the same issue, which is the human mind is conditioned after centuries and centuries of knowledge, experience, so-called culture, civilization. It's caught in a trap. The trap is not different. The trap is not different from the mind itself. The mind is the trap. The content is consciousness. Not being able to solve it, we say, please, how can I turn my back if there is not a different me, if there is not a different entity in me which says, I will turn. The invention of a different me is part of my conditioning, which is the result of a thought confronted with a problem that is insoluble by thought. Right?
Sir, then the mind says, I won't look, I can't look, and then I'll go out and not look anymore.
You are saying the mind says, I mustn't look, I won't look, I will escape, I will go away from it. But you haven't solved the problem. You haven't. Mind hasn't unconditioned itself. What I'm trying to point out, sir, is that any movement of a conditioned mind is a movement away from it, and therefore it cannot solve it. The mind has to live with it. You understand? The mind has no escape from it. The mind cannot say, well, I will leave it alone, something will solve it. I have to be with it. The mind has to be with it, look at it, immovable. I wonder if you understand all this. And because we cannot do it, we invent the me different from the thing observed. If you see the truth of this, you understand, the logic, the truth, the reason of it, which is the mind, the whole of the mind is the content, which is the conditioning. Any movement, as the observer wanting to change the conditioning, is still part of that conditioning. When you see the truth of that, there is no movement away from that fact. There is no movement away or to transform what is. Then what takes place? You understand? That's the problem. We'll deal with it. I will go into it when is it? Day after tomorrow. Right. Please, let's see this clearly and then we'll come back to it next Thursday, day after tomorrow. Mind realizes, after observing the world of Europe, America, Asia, Russia, China, the various systems, the various philosophies, the various teachers, gurus, saviors, the various scientists that are concerned with technology, and the pure scientists, and the medical profession, all that, observing the whole of that. In seeing that, the mind is aware that it is part of it. That is me, and me is that. The world is me, and I am the world. There is no difference. If I am not fighting the world, because I am the world. And this culture, which is the world, this culture with its, what this present culture is, a historical process, a growth, democratic or so-called democracy, tyranny, all that. That is the culture in which the mind has lived, grown, assimilated, and is. That mind is conditioned by this culture. And this culture says there is in you something different from the culture. And I accept it, as they do in India and elsewhere. And when I look at it, when the mind observes it, it says there is only one thing, total condition, in which all these fragmentary things exist. And that conditioning is the result of time. Can the mind observe it, live with it, without any movement away from it? You can only live with it totally if you do not want to go beyond it, escape from it, change it. And the mind will find it tremendously difficult to live with what is. Either it becomes neurotic, as it generally does, psychologically distorted, or it escapes from it. And so it finds devious ways and means of avoiding actually what is. And to remain with it without any movement, without any distortion, requires great energy. And that energy comes only when you don't dissipate.